Okay, guys, I got to take a minute and tell you about the Anchor app because if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain it to you. Number one is free, FREE. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor actually distributes the podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, many other platforms. You can make money from the podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download that free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Bye. Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the new and improved What Used to Be Without Fear with me, Rakia, is now the goddess next door with me, your host, still rakicarmona. I did a little reinventing of the podcast, just a little restructuring, just to kind of focus it in a little bit. What it'll really be focused on now is marriage, cannabis, spirituality, and a weekly book club, which I'm real excited about. So if this is your first time joining me, feel free to go ahead and like this episode, subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any content when I put it up for you. And thank you for being here. I'm ready to just jump right into it. Topic of the day, marriage, definitely starting off with that. And I want to look at communication in marriage. I want to look at communication in marriage because I just had a little communication mishap with my husband yesterday. And it just got me to thinking and looking into common problems in marriage. Communication is definitely a big one. So felt like a key topic to start out with on my marriage focus here with the goddess next door. So I want to talk about the importance of listening. And while you are listening to me, if you happen to hear my fan in the background, hey guys, I'm still pregnant, still very hot, and I like my fan on the industrial level because I need that. But the importance of listening, right? This whole topic came up for me because the other day my husband was trying to tell me a story, and I didn't listen to the whole spiel before I started to give my input, or before I started to I guess I could say rebut, or kind of criticize the information that I had. And it created a miscommunication for us, which then resulted in a little bit of tension, which we're able to quickly solve things. But for a lot of marriages, when it comes to communication, listening is that piece that is just missing from the equation. And the problem is, most of us, when we quote unquote, I'm doing my air quotes, when we're listening to our partner, are we really listening, or are we just kind of like looking for that word or that moment where we can give our rebuttal back to them? It's kind of like a tit for tat kind of thing when it comes there. And so here's how we can get better at listening to our partner in a very quick and a very easy way to become a better listener to your partner, because you love this person. And first tip I'm going to give is just that you want to set your intentions to, instead of listening for that rebuttal, you want to set that intention to listen for understanding, because that's the ultimate goal. When our partner speaks to us, and I guess I'm saying us as women or as just the other person in the marriage, when your partner speaks to you, the goal really should be to understand what it is that they're wanting to say. So it's important that you start to set that intention when you're going into conversations, especially the tough ones, because if you're not listening to understand, you're most definitely going to have a misunderstanding. Here's something that people who may not know me as well don't know about me, but I love cannabis. I mean, I love weed. And so it's only natural for me to make it a part of the podcast in a way that kind of educates people and really opens an eye on this substance that is now being, turned into a product that's actually going to be pretty available and recreationally used within the direction that society is heading, right? So we need to be educated on this because it helps people. It really is a great, loving, beautiful, special little plant that grows just to meet the needs of fellow people in the world. But first I want to look at some myths about cannabis, and over the next few episodes I'm gonna just kind of take some myths head on and debunk them just directly, I guess. The first myth, and there's a lot of them, but the first myth that I would actually like to address is just the one that says cannabis use causes memory loss and a general reduction in mental ability. And excuse me, pregnant burp. But I will say from my own experience that yes, when I smoke a lot of weed, sometimes I can be forgetful. But you know what? I can also be forgetful when I'm pregnant. I'm also forgetful when I'm running behind 2-3 children trying to figure out what each and every one of them needs. So we need to look at the facts here. Is cannabis really causing the memory loss and a reduction just in my general mental ability? Let's see. One of the facts is that tests have shown that cannabis does diminish your short-term memory, but it's only when you're actually high. So no scientific evidence has actually suggested that there's a long-term or permanent problem when you're sober. There's no scientific consensus on cannabis use or proof that casual use is dangerous to health. It doesn't cause any profound changes in a person's mental ability. After consuming, some people can experience like panic attacks or paranoia or fright. But those effects, they pass. They're not permanent things. That's just one of those parts of being high. And rarely, it's possible for a person to consume so much that you suffer from toxic psychosis. And it's not unique to cannabis. That's just something that can happen if you're doing a lot of drugs that affect you psychoactively. So you want to keep that stuff in mind. Myth number 1, there is nothing that says that cannabis causes any long-term mental afflictions. So we can go ahead and take that out of the conversation. I want to move into talking about spirituality, which will probably be the last topic that we discuss here on the podcast today. And I want to bring more spirituality and more of what I'm learning about spirituality. And this is really kind of remnant of Without Fear. I do want to keep that element and help people because I think that spirituality is such an important part of the life experience. I mean, there's no way to really have a deliberate experience without the spirituality. And the first thing that I want to look at, and one of the first things that I learned when I became interested in spirituality in general, is just minding our thoughts. I know, I say it a lot, but you need to mind your thoughts. Your thoughts really create the world around you. And some people are like, well, why do you say that all the time? Because look at it like this. We as humans, we only have control over one thing. I know you think you have control over a lot of stuff. You may think you have control over people. You may think you have control over circumstances. You may think you have control over how something's going to go. But the only thing that we really and truly can control is what we're thinking in our mind. And by controlling what we think, we then indirectly control what is going on in the environment around us. So number 1, if you're new to spirituality or if you've been involved in a spiritual practice for some time, it's really beneficial for you. And when I say mind your thoughts, what I mean is for you to observe your inner environment. If it doesn't feel great, your inner environment, like in your head, in your mind, within you. If it doesn't feel great, then you start to see what areas you need to work on and set more intentions behind, right? Very, very important for you to take a look at that inner environment. Really monitor your thoughts. You know, you're not the thoughts that you're thinking. You're the thing that's thinking those thoughts, the consciousness that's observing them. So you do need to take time, observe them, see how they're making you feel, and see what areas need a little bit of work. And the way you work on that is with your intentions. It's the only way. And I know that I'm saying to set intentions a lot. It's really a simple thing to do. It's as simple as waking up. I intend to, whatever your intentions are today. There are some spiritual teachers who teach segment intending, which I'm definitely going to get deeper into with time, but that's where you're kind of breaking down your day and setting a lot of smaller intentions based on what part or what's going on at that point in your day. So definitely start looking at those thoughts. Observe that inner environment and see where you can set some intentions to make some positive changes in your life experience. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Goddess Next Door. Don't forget, if you're still with me, to like this episode. Definitely subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss any episodes. And leave me some feedback. What do you think of the new name? How do you like the new content? On the next episode, we're going to dive back into communication and marriage. We're going to be busting a few more myths about cannabis. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how to set those intentions on the spiritual realm and why I'm telling you to do it. So again, thank you for being here with me. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of The Goddess Next Door. Bye.